Hey all, so we're going to get into how I make my very special high protein chickpea brownies. So stay tuned. The hardest part is actually to deshell the chickpeas. I actually got a very simple method of doing it, but I'm going to teach you the hard way. And much later I'll give you my little secret as to how to do it a lot more quickly, more easily, and it doesn't take as long. But let's get started. Okay, first things first. We're going to pour the chickpea juice into a separate bowl. Why? Because it's very, very useful. It's very useful. You can whip it. You can make a nice little froth out of it, like a cream, a whipped cream. But we're going to use it when we blend this later when I make my chickpea brownies. Okay, so there we go. That's done. Now we're going to start to deshell. And it's quite simple. They're already soaked. If you buy chickpeas that are not soaked, you obviously got to soak them for a while and try and remove the shells. But it's an overnight process. So here we go, removing the shell of the chickpea. You can actually see very high fiber stuff. In actual fact, for people that eat chickpeas that suffer with stomach issues, it might be worth removing the skin of the chickpea first, because once you do that, you'll find that it probably is a little bit easier on the digestive system. So worth checking out, because these are absolutely awesome food to do. So let's carry on here and we'll touch base a little bit later. They're all done. Chickpeas deshelled. There we go. They're the skins all sorted. You can see why, if you eat all of this, why it could cause a little bit of digestive discomfort. Nice and smooth. Obviously, I'm going to use this for the chickpea brownie recipe. When I make hummus, I do exactly the same thing. But there is a simpler way to do this, and I will show you in the near future. Let's get to the kitchen. Okay, let's get started. Very, very simple recipe. Okay, I've got a tin of chickpeas over here, which put in. Don't worry, you'll get all the ingredient specs later. 1 cup of rolled oats. 1/4 cup of peanut butter, nice, natural and raw. 100 grams of protein. I'm using a pea protein isolate. Can mix it up with other proteins as well, and it just absolutely gives a nice rise to the protein content of the particular brownies, but it also gives it a nice texture. So 50 grams of the protein, I used the pea protein isolate, and then I decided I'm actually going to give mine a little bit of a vanilla flavor today, so I'm going to use the 32 GR immune boosting vanilla protein, and that will give me about 100 grams of protein, but I'm using 50% of slight flavor. I'm going to give a little bit of a vanilla flavor today. You could obviously add a little bit of cocoa if you wanted to make it a little bit more chocolatey, or a chocolate protein, etc. You can use any protein you want. It's just really there to increase the protein content. And I would recommend using an isolate, so pure protein, and no concentrates if you actually going with a whey, for example. Then when I do the blending, I actually use the chickpea juice. I don't want it to go to waste. I basically need sort of 2 cups. So 1 cup will be in the form of the chickpea juice. And then my other cup, I'm going to use an almond milk. And that will be great for blending. I put all the ingredients into my famous Ninja blender. It's an amazing appliance, highly recommend it. And I'm just going to blend this first before we actually start the baking process. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put in a tablespoon of raw cocoa into the mix to give it its chocolatey flavor. You'll notice I put no sweeteners in there, and the only thing that's sweet could be the vanilla protein. It does have a little bit of stevia in it. If you want, you could sweeten it a little bit, maybe with a tablespoon of a date syrup or maple or something like that, but I'm going to keep it quite raw and clean. You see there's a nice doughy texture in here. If you find that it's not doughy enough and maybe a little bit too dry and the ingredients haven't blended properly, you can always add a little bit more almond milk or whatever milk you're using just to get it right. It depends on the kind of ingredients that you're using that will actually allow it to either blend properly or to have a little bit of dryness. So you can add a little bit more fluid if absolutely necessary. So baking tin, taking a little bit of oil. I'm using a nut oil just to grease it, so that at least when I bake it, the brownies don't stick too much, so they can actually lift out quite nice and easily. So grease a nice baking pan, and then we can get the mix in there. So I'm just going to press it down quite nicely, get the dough in here. Oven ready. The baking time is probably around 30-35 minutes, and well, let's see how it comes out. Okay, so keeping with the consistent theme of high protein, last time I showed you how to make a healthy chocolate sauce, and now I'm going to show you how to make a chocolate sauce that is actually high in protein. So that actually adds to the protein content of these chocolate brownies. Okay, so to make this, simple ingredients. I'm going to use almond nut butter. I'm going to use protein. In this case, I'm going to use a chocolate protein, but you can use a plain protein. You can add cocoa as well. And then a little bit of syrup to sweeten it. And I'm going to keep the fat content a little bit lower. I'm not going to add tahini into this one. I'm going to leave it out. I want to keep the protein content high and the fat content a little bit lower. So what I've got here is 2 tablespoons of almond nut butter. I've got about 50 grams of protein. The protein I'm using is actually a mocha protein. I'm going to give my brownies a bit of a coffee flavor. You can use chocolate, or like I said, plain protein. You can add cocoa in to give it the chocolate flavor. Okay, so I'm going to add some hot water now. I'm going to mix it up. Okay, just going to add some hot water. Like I said, if you want to get the chocolate sauce a little bit sweeter, you can add some syrup to it. Maybe a tablespoon of syrup to give a little bit more sweetness. Don't overdo it. I'm trying to keep the sugar content of these low and keep the protein content a little bit high. So, but you can do that. I mean, if you've got a sweet tooth and you want to, absolutely with pleasure. Chocolate sauce done. It's looking awesome. I'm just going to taste it to see if it's palatable. I want to make sure that the sweetness is correct. I don't want it too sweet, but I want to make sure that there is some slight sweetness there. Let's give it a bit of a taste. Very good. Okay, off to the next step. Brownies done. Time to put the chocolate sauce on. All done. Okay, so I'm going to leave it here for a little bit just to cool down, and then after that I'm going to place it in the fridge to refrigerate, and after that I'm going to cut it. Okay, and the brownies are ready. Let's cut them.
There was a time when you were young.
Taster.